Hello, it's Tom, I'm the editor of The Popcorn Muncher, and welcome once again to our YouTube channel. This week's video is based on Blade Runner 2049, which is out on Blu-ray on Monday. I got hold of a copy of it, and so I thought I would sit down and give the film another try. When it came out, I was absolutely bathed in critical hype. There were tweets everywhere saying it was the best thing since sliced bread, an absolute masterpiece, worthy of the original, everyone should go and see it, it is the best film of the year. And I, almost inevitably perhaps, was left somewhat cold. In fact, I was quite harsh about it. I'll read you what I said at the time in my verdict. It has wowed critics, but Blade Runner 2049 is something of a bloated disappointment. Despite undeniable craft, Denis Villeneuve's film lacks the thematic depth of the original and suffers from an overly ambiguous central performance by Ryan Gosling. Harrison Ford is impressive in his brief return as Deckard, but this film only scratches the surface of the possibilities presented by its intriguing narrative conceit. So, it's been a few months, the hype has had a chance to subside, I've watched the film again in all of its nearly 3-hour glory. Did I feel any better this time around? Let's find out.
What are you doing here? I heard the piano. Don't lie. It's rude. You're a cop.
I'm not here to take you in.
Oh, yeah? Then what?
In short, the answer to that question is a little bit, but perhaps not really. I certainly admired the film even more this time around. It's absolutely beautifully shot by Roger Deakins, who does deserve to finally win that Oscar he's been starved of for so long. And I think I was wrong about Ryan Gosling's performance. I think it's very interesting. I think what he does with Kay is very, very nuanced and layered. And I think that's something I didn't quite appreciate the first time around. And the whole environment of the film is beautiful. It's really well realised. It does still lack the kind of lived-in physicality of the first Blade Runner. It also has an irritating score. I'm baffled by the praise for it, really. I think it's just loud and intrusive and infuriating, especially when compared to the such brilliant work Vangelis did with the score for the first film. I think in that respect it really suffers. But there's no denying the moments that the film comes alive. The first 2 hours are really tightly controlled by Denis Villeneuve. It really is measured and old-fashioned almost in its methodical pacing, but it builds the story really elegantly. And then when Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling finally have their highly anticipated meet-up, the film makes you wait for it. It's over sort of 100 minutes before they get on screen together. But their scenes kind of crackle with electricity. They're really strong together. They have undeniable chemistry, and the kind of thematics and unsaid things in their conversation are really compelling. But unfortunately, it's after that meeting that the film really falls apart as it goes into its third act. All of the nuance and depth sort of falls aside. We're introduced to Jared Leto on full villainous form. But there's never any payoff to that villainy. He's just a megalomaniac for the sake of it. There's nothing that plays into the climax of the story about that. We're also introduced to a replicant rights movement, which is a really interesting idea, and the film teases going in interesting directions with it. But that never plays into the finale of the film either. What we instead get is this really half-baked action sequence that has a really kind of poorly choreographed fight. And at the same time, Harrison Ford is supposedly at risk of drowning to death. But every time the camera cuts to him, he looks so relaxed, like he's doing a Sudoku. He doesn't sell the scene at all. And that really undercuts the drama of it all. Particularly building to a finale that feels abrupt, even though it's supposed to be this big emotional payoff. I certainly didn't feel it. And I think if a film that's almost 3 hours long suffers with getting to its finale and suffers with feeling like it has unfinished threads, something is really wrong. If they spent that long making me watch this film, it should feel complete, it should feel satisfying, it should feel that it has a payoff. I don't feel that happens with Blade Runner 2049. I talked in my initial review about the issues with the female characters, and I think those issues are still there. I think Ana de Armas's Joy is really underwritten and really poorly conceived as a character. It feels like a bargain basement of what Spike Jonze did so well in Her. I stand by that. I think those roles still are undercooked, even as much as I appreciate the film a little bit more now. The other side of that coin, though, is that I think you have to credit the filmmakers and the studios for taking a risk on something like this. This is a cult sci-fi film with a blockbuster budget, and it was always going to struggle to make that back. It was always going to struggle to do well. And I think that you have to credit studios for taking risks, particularly in the climate we're in at the moment, where Paramount Pictures, after the high-profile flops of Mother, Suburbicon, and most recently Downsizing, they have had a change of leadership, and it's now looking like they're going in a more risk-averse direction, with Alex Garland's ideas-heavy sci-fi Annihilation going straight to Netflix, discussions about the God Particle movie, the new Cloverfield film, going straight to Netflix. I think those are films, relatively decent budget sci-fis with big ideas that, like Blade Runner 2049, deserve to be seen on the big screen where they were intended to be seen. They shouldn't be shown on Netflix. As much as that, I have no problem with Netflix films. They get a big audience. It allows people who wouldn't go out to the cinema to see that film the chance to see it, and that I really appreciate. But for films like this, it doesn't feel right. And I think that unless we kind of protect and admire films like Blade Runner 2049, those films are not going to happen anymore. They're either going to go straight to Netflix, or they're just not going to be given the funding, just not going to be given the money, and they will go away. So as much as I think Blade Runner 2049 is flawed, I think on a second watch, I was overly harsh on it first time around, perhaps coloured by the hype, and I would happily turn my poop review into a pop, because as much as it's still on the borderline. It was on the borderline before, it's on the borderline now. I think it's immensely flawed, but I think it's a towering work of ambition, and for that, Denis Villeneuve and everyone involved deserve to be congratulated.
I'm so happy when I'm with you.
You don't have to say that.
But let me know if you agree. What do you think of Blade Runner 2049? Will you be giving it another go on Blu-ray? It is out on Monday, so it's well worth picking up. It's a really unique film, a really individual film. As I say, flawed, but worth picking up. Let me know if you'll be buying it. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed this, please head over to thepopcornmuncher.com, where you can find more of our content, and also follow us on the relevant social media channels, which are on that website, as well as in the description below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.